Good morning and thank you for watching our support event, which includes an act of remembrance and the planting of our memorial trees at both Southport and Ormskirk hospitals. Although COVID has evolved significantly from last year, when we had to do our memorial event online, we still felt at the hospital, where we have significant restrictions in place, that to have a big gathered event when relatives can't come and see their loved ones would be inappropriate. So once again, we're online. We have called this time a support event, which includes an act of remembrance and the planting of memorial trees, and it's just that. You may remember last year we invited you to tie ribbons and plant bulbs outside our hospitals. The magnolia tree we are planting this year will become a more permanent memorial area. More about that later. I am delighted that colleagues from the hospital, the hospice and some local singers are supporting this event, and we really do hope you find it helpful. Of course, we realise that there are many different outlooks on life represented by those watching. As we put this together with a whole variety of words, some spiritual but not religious, some more traditionally religious, we hope you find something for you. At the end of the event, there will be details on the screen of where you might look to for resources to find support. In a moment, there's going to be a song called In Sad and Glad Remembrance. Both our songs and hymns are sung by Dave and Wendy today, to whom I am so very grateful. After the song, my colleague Jan from the Spiritual Care and Chaplaincy team is going to offer a reflection on trees using some traditional Bible words. Then Dr. Karen Groves is going to offer a reflection on tears. Then we're going to go over to the tree planting at both Southport and Ormskirk, where different members of our executive team will be sharing thoughts and words. Although the words from this song may not be familiar, it's a very traditional tune that I'm sure you will recognise. In the song, we're asked to come and remember loved ones, to share a common sense of grief and loss, and to recall with love. And the writer suggests in time so we can dance through our grief.
The focus of our memorial event this year is on the planting of two memorial trees, one at Southport and one at Ormskirk. Trees are amongst some of the oldest living things on earth. They provide shelter, food, shade. They lower temperatures, filter water and carbon dioxide, and continually pump oxygen so that the rest of us can breathe. Trees have been around since the very dawn of time. It amazes me to think that there are trees here today that were here long before I was a twinkle in my father's eye, and will be here long after I have left this earth. I believe that trees can give us a glimpse into eternity. Eva Hayman has written a poem called Tree Talk, and in it she says this of trees: "My roots are deep in eternity. I grow beyond myself and sing with the wind the eternal song of love. I shelter and listen to all who touch my mystery. Trees grow slowly. They endure long after the person who's planted them has left this earth. Even when they're cut down, you very often see new life growing from their stumps. To me, trees symbolise hope. They are eternal, alive, towers of strength and life. So as we started planning this event, I challenged myself with the task of finding a suitable Bible passage about trees, bringing hope. Surely there must be one. Interestingly, I discovered that for every major character in the Bible, there is a tree involved. Think of Adam and Eve and the tree of life, Noah and the olive branch, Abraham sat under an oak, Zacchaeus climbing a tree, and Jesus dying on a tree. From start to finish, trees are mentioned in the Bible. Well, the passage I settled on as being appropriate for us was from the prophet Isaiah. Isaiah wrote about 700 BC, and his book was split into words of judgment and words of comfort. The passage I've chosen is from the words of comfort, and it says that God has sent Isaiah to comfort all those who mourn and provide for those who grieve, to give them a crown of beauty instead of ashes, the oil of joy instead of mourning, a garment of praise instead of a spirit of despair, and they will be called oaks of righteousness, lofty, strong and magnificent." For me, this passage brings hope with its promise of comfort, joy and even praise. I love that those of us who mourn are likened to trees who are strong, towers of strength and life, who are symbols of eternity. You may be feeling far from any of those things right now, but I wonder if next time you're in the presence of a tree, you can take the time to stand and stare and marvel at what they symbolise: hope, eternity and strength. And maybe reflect upon these words from Hermann Hesse, who says, "When we are stricken and cannot bear our lives any longer, then a tree has something to say to us. Be still, look at me."
How do my tears fall for you? Initially, great sobs of desolation that rack my soul, and waterfalls of tears that streak the face you loved. I struggle to believe that you're no longer here with me, or fathom the reason why things should have changed. I can no longer see you, and am blinded by my tears. I can no longer hear you, and am deafened by my sobs. I can no longer touch you, and am numbed by your absence. I walk through the landscape of mourning, along the dark valley with its mountains of tissues, beside the rivers of tears to the rapids where I risk losing my way, and pick up the paths of memory, trip over the landmines of grief, and find little sunlit clearings of peace where I picnic for a while, sitting against the wise old trees of meaning, before stumbling on forward through the thicket of hopes and fears, looking into the fog of the future. I realise that my journey is hard work and the map incomplete, as my tears become slowed to a trickle at times, Tears that arrive as I remember the good times we shared, the memories we made, the love that was ours. My tears have become my friends, tears of consolation, tears that remind me of you. Washington Irving said this about tears: "There is a sacredness in tears. They are not a mark of weakness, but of power. They speak more eloquently than 10,000 tongues. They are the messengers of overwhelming grief, of deep contrition, and of unspeakable love." Let my tears then be enough to gradually smooth the rough walls of the cavern that you left in my life when you went, the size of which is a measure of our love, and which can never be filled, but remains as a permanent reminder of the good that you are.
Thank you, Martin, and welcome everybody this morning. I've got a few background words to say. The planting of memorial trees is an ancient tradition dating back thousands of years. Trees have long been associated with being life-giving, with immortality, with love, with strength and eternity. They have been sacred for many cultures and religions, and often planted in celebrations of different cycles of life.
The planting of a tree gives us focus for our memories of loved ones, as well as an area to come and reflect. Trees help us feel connected to our loved ones, and we want these trees around the beautiful part of our hospitals to be a place for everyone to remember with love and to find hope. Today, we have chosen to plant a magnolia tree, one of the most beautiful and ancient trees, as a focus for our memorial.
Last year, we invited people to tie ribbons and plant bulbs outside the hospital. Lots did this, and it's been a picture of colour. This year, we're making this area a more permanent focus, and over the winter, we'll be moving some of the ribbons to this area, and today, we're also putting some of the ribbons with the tree. I'm now going to invite Anne-Marie to say some formal words as we place the tree in the ground.
We're planting this tree as part of our memorial to and remembrance of staff, patients, family and friends who have sadly died, particularly those during the COVID pandemic. We really hope that this place, this very special place of hope and remembrance, is going to be somewhere where people will come and contemplate and enjoy and remember loved ones. We're also going to invite people to come and plant bulbs around the area so that it'll start to take on real life and colour of its own.
We are sorry we could not invite relatives to be present for this ceremony. However, we'd love to invite anyone to come and plant bulbs in remembrance of loved ones around this area. If you'd like support while you're doing this or more details, please contact the spiritual care team. Their details are going to be on the video at the end, and we'd be more than happy to come and support you.
So the poem I'm about to read is called The Tree of Life, and it was written for us for the opening of our Garden of Reflection, and I thought it would be appropriate today. Roots scrambling in darkness, nurturing growth and holding the weight of trunk and branch, essential but unseen. Trunk circling the years, holding an infinity of memories many forget, whilst cherished and unforgettable and beloved. Branches, an expression of chaotic activity, swaying, sometimes in perfect harmony, sometimes falling at the overwhelming. Leaves, a rainbow of colour and expression, changing with the seasons, always vulnerable, holding on with a fragile grip and letting go and flying to the unknown. The tree of life, an expression of life's contradiction, of light and dark, monochrome and colour, joy and pain, forgotten and remembered, holding on and letting go, held together by fragile hope. We bring all of our humanity to this area of reflection, a place where we will laugh and cry, celebrate and mourn, find solace in the silence, and seek strength to journey on.
So we place these box of ribbons, already a focus of remembrance, around the tree. And we ask that the peace of all creation and the blessing of our gods and our faiths would be around this place, that it would be a place of remembrance, of hope, comfort and support.
Shared Loss by David Buck, from his book, Can You Be the Heir? There are some people who, when their life meets ours, bless us. Blessed in the moment of meeting, and blessed in the way that somehow they become part of us. Change who we are, the way we see things, and greet the next day. We and the world are enriched by such people and such meetings, enriched by the laughter shared, curious ways, stories about wigs, gnomes, parties, being together, working, crying. So when to them the pain comes and the tears flow, our hearts and minds suffer too. And helpless as we may feel, it is comfort and blessing for our friends to know that we lost something too. And we are left wondering.
Some words of remembrance. At the blowing of the wind and in the chill of winter.
We will remember them.
At the opening of the buds and in the rebirth of spring.
We will remember them.
At the blueness of the skies and in the warmth of summer.
We will remember them.
At the rustling of the leaves and in the beauty of autumn.
We will remember them.
At the beginning of the year and when it ends.
We will remember them.
When we have joy we crave to share.
We will remember them.
When we have decisions that are difficult to make.
We will remember them.
When we have achievements that we want to share.
We will remember them.
As long as we live, we will remember them, for they are now a part of us.
We will remember them.
For my 50th birthday, my mum presented me with a scrapbook filled with pictures of me. Pictures that catalogue my life so far. As me as a baby, with my siblings, with aunts and uncles and grandparents now long gone, my wedding, my graduation, my ordination, on family holidays, family parties, Christmases, Easters, weddings and christenings, sunbathing, in my curlers, with my best friends. You get the picture, pun intended. I've had so much fun looking through those pictures with family and friends and reliving all of those moments. It was interesting that my grandson was convinced a picture of his dad was a picture of him. Photographs are a snapshot of a moment in time, captured, never to be forgotten. Looking at a photo can take you back instantly to that moment in time, how we felt, who we were with, a special moment. Of course, photograph albums are becoming a thing of the past as more and more photos are on our phones or our tablets or online. You know, we also have a whole album of photographs in our minds. We don't need a physical album, a phone, a tablet, or access to the internet. We just need to close our eyes and remember, and the picture will appear in our mind's eye. As we do, we remember the laughter shared, curious ways, stories about wigs, gnomes, parties, being together, working, crying. So I invite you during this next song to close your eyes and picture your loved one. Thumb through that photo album in your mind. Remember all that made them special for you when they were part of your life. And remember all that keeps them special for you now. So here is Paddy Corn and Angelina Dove with Wild and Young.
Afterglow by Helen Lowry Marshall. I'd like the memory of me to be a happy one. I'd like to leave an afterglow of smiles when life is done. I'd like to leave an echo whispering softly down the ways of happy times and laughing times and bright and sunny days. I'd like the tears of those who grieve to dry before the sun of happy memories that I leave when life is done.
In our poems, reflections and words, in our songs and in our actions and thoughts, there have been words on many things. Tears and memories, pictures and thoughts, present moments and events of years ago, hopes and fears, shattered dreams and the consistency of nature, the support of others and the intense loneliness. Lots of other words could have been shared. I sometimes wonder, how is grief best described? I've heard so many different words. Some of the politer ones are an experience, a journey, life-changing, life-defining, or as somebody once looked me in the eye and said, this grief business is crap, isn't it? And everyone who has been there knows the answer is yes. The Reverend Richard Coles, in his book The Madness of Grief, and there's a description in itself, also refers to grief as an explosion. And you will, of course, have your own words and thoughts. Why? Because grief is unique to everybody. There is never room in grief for anybody ever saying, I know how you feel, because nobody does. Because that is part of the definition of unique. Of course, the context of grief will have some bearing on our response to it. The response to a sudden and dramatic death will in some ways be different to a response to a more controlled, timely death. And of course, we bring our own outlook and personality to grief. We simply bring ourselves to it, though our emotions and responses will be perhaps pushed to extremes that can surprise us. Why am I saying these things? Well, I hope they are supportive, but also they are a response to what many people say to me. Because many people who experience the messiness and the madness and the explosion of grief feel their experience is unique, and because of that, they feel they're not coping, and because of that, they feel they shouldn't ask for help. Although their experiences are unique, of course, grief is not. Grief knows no boundaries. It crosses cultures, religions, faiths, ideologies and outlook. It can feel the same for the atheist as it does for the agnostic and the person of lifelong deep faith. And in this short space of time, all we can say is, please, if you need help, don't journey alone. If you are able, share your thoughts and your feelings with those around you. If you feel you can, find support from those around you and from those outside the situation. But above all, please don't journey alone. As a reflection Elaine read earlier, Afterglow suggests, remember the happy times with smiles and tears, but let grief take you where it needs to take you. There are no shortcuts or way round it, only through it. I'm going to finish this section with a paraphrase of a few readings which could be called the plea of those who grieve. These scenarios are all based on conversations that I've shared over the years. Please. Please don't ask me if I'm over it yet. How can you get over such a life-defining event? All I can hope is that I'll learn to live with it. Please don't tell me he's in a better place. This may be true, but he's not here with me. Please don't say, at least she's not suffering. I cannot come to terms with why she had to suffer at all. Please don't ask me if I feel better. Bereavement isn't a condition that clears up. Please don't tell me you know how I feel. You don't. Please don't say, at least you had him for so many years, for I wanted him for some more. Please don't tell me God never gives us more than we can bear. I don't always feel that's true. Please don't tell me you're sorry. You haven't done anything, but please talk to me about her. Mention his name. Help me share memories. If it produces a tear, that's fine. Don't get anxious by that. But above all, be there, at my side. Let us share our humanity, our thoughts and our memories together. As we approach the end of this recording, I'd like to thank everybody who has taken time to sing or read or share their thoughts. But above all, I'd like to thank you for watching. And it is our hope that wherever you are within life and grief, you found something of help within this recording. Please remember, you don't journey alone, and there is support out there should you find it helpful. And as mentioned earlier, on the screen at the end there'll be some details of where support can be found. We're going to hear another song now, a traditional hymn and prayer, Make Me a Channel of Your Peace, after which our Roman Catholic colleague and priest chaplain Kevin is going to say a very short prayer and blessing.
Make me a channel of your peace. Where there is hatred, let me bring your love. Where there is injury, your pardon, Lord. And where there's doubt, true faith in you. Make me a channel of your peace.
Having lost a brother earlier this year through COVID, I share this prayer with all of you who are grieving at this time. Tender-hearted God, the ones we love have gone to be with you, and we are left behind to mourn our losses. We long for what can be no more. Help us to continue our journey without those we love as part of our lives. Take our sorrow, emptiness, and heartache, and soften it with your compassionate heart as we grieve the departure of our dear ones. And please hold us close in your loving care until we are reunited with them and with you. Amen. Merciful Lord, you know the anguish of the sorrowful. You are attentive to the prayers of the humble. Hear your people who cry out to you in their need, and strengthen their hope in your lasting goodness. And may the peace and blessing of Almighty God, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit strengthen you and all those you love. Amen.